For some reason, lately I've noticed more and more people having a hard time figuring out exactly percentages, percentage increase, percentage decreases, and a lot of this stuff is really not that difficult. Yet, even experts seem to be a bit baffled by some of this stuff. Let me just give you an example.
How do you make sense of those numbers? What do you interpret from that?
Yeah, when you're hearing those numbers, what they're talking about is drop from the peak, right? So from that 1 month in time right before the rate started going up, and it makes sense. And if you look at markets that went up 100%, them dropping 50% isn't as crazy as markets that went up 20%, maybe dropping 10%, right? Although the numbers are a lot larger.
Yeah, so not quite. So let's have a look at the actual math behind it. All right, so let's start with something very basic. Let's say you have $100. That $100 goes up by 100%. So 100% of $100 is another $100. 100 plus 100 gives you $200, right? So far, so good. Okay, now you take the $200 minus 50%. 50% of $200 is $100. 200 minus 100 gives you 100. Net return, 0. So far, so good. Now let's look at the next one. Let's say you start out with $100 plus 20%. 20% of 100 is $20. That gives you 120. So 120 minus 10%. 10% of 120 is $12. 120 minus 12 gives you 108. That gives you a percentage return of 8%. So clearly, the second option is preferable to the first one and not vice versa. This becomes incredibly important when you're looking at things like stock returns. For instance, this particular JP Morgan study that I've covered in previous videos, a link in the description down below if you're interested, tracked the Russell 3000 over this 35-year period from 1980 to 2014. In case you're not familiar with the Russell 3000, it's made up at any point in time of the 3,000 largest publicly traded companies in the US. By themselves, they make up about 98% of the market cap of all publicly traded companies. So that's a very good measure of more or less the entire US stock market, right? So they've looked at all of these different sectors, and what they found is that over that 35-year period, on average, across sectors, 40% of companies, okay, had a catastrophic loss that they defined as a decline from peak of 70% or greater with minimal recovery. Now, this becomes incredibly important when you're looking at stock market returns, specifically stock market losses, for you to be able to break even. So it's important to understand how these percentages work, right? So just very basic example here. Let's start off again with $100. We lose 1%, not a big deal, right? So that's 1% of $100. That's $1. 100 minus 1 gives you $99. Now, for that $99 to break even again, right? If it only goes up by 1%, 1% of $99 is only 99 cents, right? You're not breaking even yet. So you need to go back, your investment has to go back up again by 1.01% to break even, or a net difference between 1.01% and the 1% loss of 0.01%. Now you might say, well, Alex, that's a tiny difference. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Well, it really should matter to you because it makes a huge difference once you're looking at larger losses. And specifically, if you're looking at that 70% loss that was mentioned, right, that happens in 40% of companies across sectors in the Russell 3000 over long periods of time, well, if you lose 70% of your $100, right, you're left over with $30. For those $30 to break even, right, to break even, it has to go up by 233.33% from the $30. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to break even, right? So the net difference in percentage terms is 163.33% between the 233.33 and the 70 over there, right? And this becomes even more ridiculous when you're looking at, losses of 95%, then that $5 for it to go back up to $100 just to break even has to go up by 1,900% basically, right? Or 19x return, or 19x on top of the actual $5 value, right? So in conclusion, always run the numbers for yourself. And this is a lovely little exponential growth chart that basically shows you here what is the difference between the percentage returns that you need to have in order to break even. As your losses are going higher up, you're going into the thousands and thousands of percentage returns just to break even with the initial thing. So always run your numbers. And yeah, if something sounds a bit off, double check.